I want to go back to a point, Meredith, you made about working together with HR to drive, it sounds like more awareness of what benefits or what resources the organization has invested in on behalf of the employees. I think that's so monumental because at Moms with Benefits, we talk a lot about the financial impact of parenting. The same case can be made for caregivers broadly. There's a finance component to it. And, a lot of the mothers that I work with through Moms with Benefits their goal is financial stability. And it feels like when you're a parent, you have a lot of changes, physical, mental, emotional, everything's changing. But to be able to know that your financial piece of the puzzle is stable because of your organization's income, your paycheck obviously, but everything else that they're able to provide for you, like that's a massive opportunity for employers to build that trust and to make a big difference in somebody's life when they could be most vulnerable. Hello, this is Samantha Saxby with another episode of Moms with Benefits, and specifically our mini-series called Chasing Change, where we are all about highlighting and celebrating organizations and specifically the leaders at those organizations that are evolving the culture, the systems, the policies, the benefits to support working parents. And so today we're so excited to have both Meredith and Aprile with us. They are both chairs at their Parents and Caregiving Together ERG, Employee Resource Group, and they are from an organization called Bozzuto. They do real estate, construction, and development. They have about, or over 2,500 employees, and within their Parents and Caregiving ERG, they have over 270 members spread out among 5 different chapters. So they are here to share what they've been doing, what's been successful, and how they've been able to chase change at their organization. So Meredith and Aprile, I'm so excited to welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Samantha.
So I really want to dig into where it all got started. So, how did the Parents and Caregiving Together ERG start? So it's a PACT is what you call it, Parents and Caregiving Together, PACT. So we'll use that word going forward. So the PACT ERG that exists at Bozzuto, how did that get started and why?
Well, I would love to kind of chime in and take this question. We, as a company, have really been focused and dialed into creating safe spaces for our employees. We have multiple different ERGs, employee resource groups, and have been trying to grow from that perspective, gaining an idea of what's important to the people that work for our company. And it kind of came out of that. I was a huge advocate for ERGs. I've been a part of VITA, which is Hispanic, cultural, Latino backgrounds. We have Soul, we have women in Bozzuto, Bozzuto vets and those types of things as well. And we found a niche. There was an opportunity for parents. I was a brand new parent myself, and I needed some resources and information. So it was a little selfish, but I wanted to connect with people who were further along in their parenting journey, so to speak, and wanted to tap those resources. And I knew I couldn't be the only one. So it kind of started off from that perspective. Then I asked the questions and I reached out to different departments and said, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? Can I tap some of the people in your department who may be able to assist us and bring this to fruition overall? We really wanted to have something that put an impact on what we do. We like to play off of that PACT a lot and make that big step forward. I think what made us, well, we'll talk about that a little later, but what made us so successful is kind of that infancy start as well with regards to bringing in people from every facet of our company. We have accounting, we have marketing, we have our retail departments, we have, steps across the board. And it's really important for us to come together in the infancy of these ERGs and these programs to make ourselves successful. So it came from me being selfish and wanting to know information about how to be a better parent, coworker, all of the things, kind of check the boxes from there.
Not selfish at all, honestly. I am a new parent. I still consider myself a new parent. He's 18 months old. And so we need all the help we can get. And I think it's incredible that it sounds like Bozzuto already had a sense of community where you were like, I need help and I trust my organization that I work for to be that new community as a parent. And like, that's powerful and that's wonderful that, that space it sounds like was created to then be able to create another space specifically for parents. And so just hats off to the organization for that. So I want to dive into what does the PACT ERG do to support your members?
We do a lot. I'll say our most popular event is probably geared around kids just because it's the first driver of our ERG. So we have Bring Your Kids to Work Day, which is a national event across the world. And then we kind of came about Tiny Tykes. So those are the kids that are too young to attend Bring Your Kid to Work Day. So those are more infants and toddlers. So that's brought some energy to the office, which is good to see. But aside from the parents, we do not want to leave out the caregivers. So we did have a caregiving panel that went very well. So we have more caregivers in our organization than we are aware of. And just having that resource and support, because caregiving can be difficult. Parenting is hard, but so is caregiving. So just that network and those events where people have those safe spaces and can use each other. You never know what mom may have an idea, what caregiver may have a resource of support. So just having those events of spaces that allow us to connect on another level is great. So events is our high driver, but we also try to have resources in our platforms that they can refer to over time.
Yeah, I love that. And so I'm hearing a lot of the events are in person as opposed to virtual. Is that strategic?
So our caregiving panel was hybrid, I believe. Yeah. So it was through Zoom. So people who were not physically in our Maryland location could stream in. But as far as the kids events, those are by region with our different chapters. So those events are more in person, but we are trying to think of more caregiving and financial support for caregivers events to come. So exciting things for this coming year.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Great stuff. And so, you're doing events. It sounds like you're listening to your community to see what they are interested in doing and what types of events. I think that a panel idea is always so wonderful because you get lots of different perspectives and nuggets of wisdom for those that are attending. And so when you think about the PACT ERG, how do you define success as leaders? But then I'm also curious of how does your organization define success for what you all are leading as well?
Yeah, I would love to say that we have been successful, and we are successful because of the support and involvement from all of our members. Though the number of true members is in that 200 range, I think we really have support from a bigger cohort within our company. And they have pushed us to be successful from that perspective. We really want to grow in our satellite locations and, really be able to help out those ones that aren't near our corporate office and those types of things. Success is also, making sure that the people know the resources that are available. That's a really big part of what we do. We want to partner with our HR department. Make sure you know what is available to you, because we have a great, robust offering at our company at Bozzuto. They are fully invested in us, and there is more out there than I even knew
Me too.
before starting with PACT that helps us from every level, from, you know, the mental health point, but also how we've really grown our maternity leaves and paternity leaves and everything like that. The support we get from our HR teams in relation to those, as well as for the caregiving part as well. They have grown in relation to adoption leave and those types of things. So they're invested no matter what your familial status is, which has been amazing. And being able to have an ear and a voice with PACT to talk through, hey, can we make any more improvements to this? Here is what I've seen from our Glint surveys or our feedback from residents. April's been really good about putting together surveys like, what would you like to see? Those types of things, which also helps us with success across the board with this particular employee resource group. So those are some of the ways.
I would say, Meredith, too, success, I would say just like feedback, like actual feedback from people we work with from every day, like after an event and people expressing that it really was impactful. They really did learn something. You guys did really great organizing. It's good to hear that so we know what to build off of going forward, too.
Yeah, that's a great point, April. It sounds like you all are really creating more engagement with your members and with the organization as a whole. And I want to go back to a point, Meredith, you made about working together with HR to drive, it sounds like more awareness of what benefits or what resources the organization has invested in on behalf of the employees. I think that's so monumental because at Moms with Benefits we talk a lot about the financial impact of parenting. You know, the same case can be made for caregivers broadly. There's a finance component to it, and you know, a lot of the mothers that I work with through Moms with Benefits is their goal is financial stability, and it feels like they're, you know, when you're a parent you have a lot of changes, physical, mental, emotional, you know, everything's changing. But to be able to know that your financial piece of the puzzle is stable because of your organization's income, you know, your paycheck obviously, but everything else that they're able to provide for you, like that's a massive opportunity for employers to build that trust and to make a big difference in somebody's life when they could be most vulnerable. And so I just echo the sentiments that you are saying, because I think it truly is profound when organizations go above and beyond. And it sounds like Bozzuto is doing just that.
Yeah, Bozzuto listens, which is great. You know, we always are striving and pushing for more and seeing how it makes sense company-wide, but also the investment back into the people that work for this company. I mean, we work hard, right? Every day. And you're right, the financial impact is major when you consider having a kid. You know, I'm going to go a little bit more personal on this level. Like, I was very career driven, like not thinking about kids. It wasn't on the radar. There were a lot of people when we told them I was pregnant, they were like moving you from the no kids, like you were in that bucket. You know, but coming to Bozzuto, and we talked about this, our first event that we had was story time, and it was a great opportunity for us all to get together for those as a part of PACT to share our stories, our caregiving stories, those different things. And, you know, we created everything, we had the stories, and I was like, I didn't tell my story. I literally was in that boat, did not want kids until Bozzuto made me realize that I can have it all.
That you can have that balance.
I could. I have great support from the leadership side, from those that are on my team physically as well. And, you know, it gave me the opportunity to kind of consider that while still considering being a girl boss, woman boss, you know?
Yeah.
I would say, and I would say I'm grateful that you were selfish, because this was created right after, I feel like before I had my first child. So when I came back from maternity leave, PACT was around, and I was able to join Meredith as a chair. So it's just good I was able to come back probably on edge of like, how do I do work? How do I do kids? Mm-hmm. And then there was this community. So I'm grateful that she was selfish, and she's sharing it with all of us.
Amazing. It truly is amazing. I mean, that you two are real people that have been, truly impacted by your organization. And also you two are, going above and beyond to try to make it a better place for other parents and caregivers at your organization. So, just inspirational. And thank you for sharing your story, Meredith, about, being on one side of the fence and now you've jumped to the other. So
Best decision I ever made, by the way. Best, hands down.
Good.
Yeah.
I do want to ask, Meredith, how many kids do you have? And April, how many kids do you have?
So I am a one and done family. I love her. She is wonderful. She is my life. I am glad that I made the decision, but she will be not spoiled, but at least have everything she needs.
Awesome. And April, what about you?
I have two. My oldest is 3, and my youngest will be 2 in December.
Oh.
So I started a pack on my own once it started, but they are energy. But they're wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I don't think mine's 2. I don't think I said that. Yes.
Okay. So you all are still fresh, young parenthood.
Yes.
You're in it.
Yes.
Yeah, PACT is fresh too. It started 2022.
Yeah.
I think we had an event. It was somewhere around there.
Wow, and you already have that many members, that many chapters, this many events that you've been able to, that is like astounding.
We have an amazing team, Samantha. Like amazing people who are so dedicated and they are supporting each other and like Christy, Joel, like I can name them all. Like they're so amazing, and Steven, like making sure that the word is out there, the communication is happening. Like thank goodness for April over here because her marketing, like eye for stuff, making sure that like all of our announcements are there. We've been really forward thinking in it too. We did take a year to roll it out because we wanted to make sure everything was right before it was opened up to our colleagues to join. We wanted to have kind of a framework of what events are really important to us. How are we touching? We have RISE, which is our philanthropic arm of Bozzuto as well. And it was important to incorporate that with this ERG. So typically for Mother's Day and Father's Day, we're putting together packages for those that are less fortunate so that they can celebrate being amazing parents too. We're all in different points and spots in our life. So we wanted to make sure that piece was in there. We wanted to make sure that there was a part about company, making sure we knew what our resources were. We wanted to make sure the events were right too. How can we make it equitable for those that are East Coast to West Coast, not necessarily at our corporate office, thinking, about all those little touch points about it. Membership, how are we going to drive it? How are we going to communicate about it? It does take a lot of thought process to make sure that you're successful, but when you have amazing people on your team that have that focus and that drive towards that goal, you can really do amazing things.
That's a great point, and thank you for bringing that up. So would you say that your advice to those that are thinking about creating a parents or caregiving ERG is to push for change, but take time to make sure you're strategic enough about what your goals are and how to ensure that it is successful?
Yes. I would say it is extremely important to have a framework in place before you roll something out. Because you're not going to have the impact that you want if it's not organized. It's important to set structure, making sure you have leads in events, make sure you have leads in, your philanthropic arm, make sure you have leads that have the connections with HR department as well. Like kind of pulling all those pieces together is really important in ensuring a strong rollout, and you're prepared to support those employees on that front. Having the conversations and all of that and creating connection is really important too, but just trying to make the biggest impact on what you're doing with your employee resource groups is important.
So You are both doing a lot for your ERG. I imagine that this is a job on top of a job, sometimes it might feel like. And so, talk to me about the struggles you have being leads for your parents and caregiving together ERG group.
I know I talked a lot about success, right? So you're like, okay, tell me where's the catch? Yeah. It is a lot of work. You are right. But when you're passionate about something, people say it all the time, it doesn't feel like work. It is important to have the structure, to put the work in, to have the thought process, to think forward. Making sure that are we providing what we need for our teams, those types of things is tough. Thinking about the future of PACT is, something that is top of mind for me. I talk about it during our board meetings or our committee meetings. We have to think of a succession plan. We're not always going to be sitting in the seat. We can't always sit in this seat. We need to make sure that we're making room for other people to come in, to lead, to bring their ideas, from that perspective. So it's important to not always be leaning on the same people to execute on everything. So making sure that we're getting that buy-in across the board is something that we're really strategically focused on now, and kind of growing the leadership impact a little bit more.
That makes sense.
I would say an additional on Meredith too, just making sure we have something for everyone. I know it can be hard. I feel like parents are loud, like they're boisterous about being a parent, but caregivers it may be a little more difficult for them to discuss or share that they're caregiving. So just making sure that we're being inclusive, and following our mission on the caregiving front. I just don't want that to be a second thing to our ERG, because it is parents and caregivers. So just making sure we have something for everyone.
Right. And that opens up to kind of the thought process that we've been looking for, like single parents and parents of those that may have special needs, and like, are we providing everything to everyone there? That has been something we've been talking about, trying to like create those opportunities for those people to come together, but we need them to raise their hand and let us know who they are so that we can connect them. So
and create that space.
Exactly. So that's something that you're right is top of mind for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so what do you think are the most impactful resources then that you have today?
I would say the most impactful would be the resources we collected from the caregiving panel. That panel, I feel like, opened a lot of people's ears to our ERG. Some people may have joined as a caregiver and not a parent. And I think those resources that they were unaware of really opened their ears. So I think more resources for parents of all facets and all caregiver types, I think is our goal. And I think we put a good dent in that so far, just as a start.
And help me with a little color on the resources that were showcased. Were they resources that your organization has already invested in, like your benefits and things, or were they external resources?
So we opened the window to all the benefits some people may not be aware of, but then during the panel, some people from their personal experiences shared resources or individuals that have been helping them. So we just kind of made a library of all those resources from each individual and shared those with our PACT network.
Amazing. That's awesome.
So it came from all different areas, the resources.
And Meredith, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, we also have resources for on the back end, which I think is important, like Telescope, which I think is something that I think is really important to provide to those ERG groups, because you can pull the information in. Like April said, we can create a library. It gives an access and a flow point for those that might not have been able to join that particular event. We can store the recordings, we can store the contact information. We share best practices in there. There's a lot of housing of information that I think has been great through the creation of PACT and being able to use the resources that the company provides us on the back end.
Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for sharing those tips. That's a great idea to have, your benefits be linked to the conversations that you're having, but then also have the community and your members share what resources they've personally used as well, as a strong recommendation of what's actually worked. So amazing. So, in the Moms with Benefits community, a lot of our listeners and community members are working parents, typically working moms that are trying to navigate family and work dynamics, but also a lot of them have a fire lit under them to say, I want to evolve my organization's culture or policies or benefits. And so we get asked all the time, how can they start? Where do they start? How can they best move these conversations forward? So you two, I'd love to understand, what recommendations you might have for those that might be listening on how to become change agents for their organizations.
I would say it's a multi-step. I would say first identify what you may be passionate about. Like Meredith found that she was passionate. She was about to have a kid. So it was created off the passion of that. Then it would be kind of create your structure, your game plan, your support, kind of try to build a team. And then 3 would be once you feel really strong about those to begin to execute. And I would say to share your voice is probably the 3rd one. Someone around you is going through something very similar, whether they may look like it or not. And I think it's just very important that if you feel passionate about something, to share it or at least be a part of it is the way to go. So just identify your passion, and then honestly it'll go from there. Because like Meredith says, it's on top of a job, but then it's oh, I have this PACT thing to do, but it's fun, but I'm into it. So it just drives you in a different way. It's still work, but it drives you in another impactful way, which is good. So those are the goals.
Yeah, great tips, great tips.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing about Bozzuto's awesome work and the support that they are doing for the parents and caregivers at your organization. Thank you, and April. Thank you, Meredith, for sharing your journey with PACT specifically. And thank you just in general for the work that you're doing to be able to support working parents and caregivers. It's really needed in today's world. And so I'm just grateful that there's people like you two out there doing the work and doing the heavy lifting. So thank you. And anything else you want to share before we sign off today?
Thank you for creating a platform.
Yes. Thank you for letting us share. This is great.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Bye, Samantha.
Bye.